We will work, we will cook, we will help your home. Please grant us shelter," said the Apache sister. The sun was slowly climbing above the horizon, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and gold. Two Apache sisters, Maria and Alina, walked along the dusty road that led to the nearest town. Their feet ached from the long journey, and their small bundles of belongings weighed heavily on their shoulders. The road had been long, stretching for miles across hills and dry grass, and their stomachs had gone empty for most of the day. Yet, despite the pain and exhaustion, they walked with determination. They had no home, no food, and no promise of shelter, but they carried hope like a small, fragile flame inside their hearts. Maria, the older of the two, held her sister Alina's hand tightly. She tried to comfort herself with the thought that soon someone kind might help them. "We will work," Maria whispered almost to herself. "We will cook, we will help, someone will give us shelter." Alina nodded silently. She was younger, quieter, but her eyes were filled with courage. They had always depended on each other, and now more than ever, they needed to stick together. The town appeared in the distance, a cluster of small wooden houses and shops surrounded by fences and fields. The sisters could see smoke rising from chimneys, the sound of voices, and the occasional clatter of horses' hooves. It was a busy morning, and the townspeople were beginning their daily routines, unaware of the two travelers approaching their doors. Maria took a deep breath, tightened her grip on Alina's hand, and whispered again, "We have to try. We cannot give up." As they walked closer, the sisters noticed the expressions on the faces of the people going about their mourning. Some looked hurried, some curious, and others wary. The sisters approached the first house, a small wooden home with flowers growing in front of the windows. Maria raised her hand and knocked gently on the door. The sound echoed faintly through the small porch, and a woman's voice called from inside, "Who is it?" Maria spoke clearly, her voice soft but strong. "Please, ma'am, we are sisters. We have no home, no food. We will work. We will cook. We will help your home in any way we can. Please give us shelter." There was a long pause. The door opened slightly and an older woman peeked out. Her eyes were sharp and her expression was cautious. "Sisters, from where?" she asked. "From the Apache community," Maria replied. "We travel looking for work. We only ask for a place to rest, and we promise to help with anything you need." The woman's eyes narrowed. She studied them for a moment, looking at their worn clothes and tired faces. Then she shook her head slowly. "I'm sorry, I cannot help. You should leave before you trouble anyone else." The door closed quietly but firmly. The sisters stepped back, holding each other's hands. Maria swallowed the lump in her throat and whispered to Alina, "It's all right. We will keep trying." Alina nodded, but the disappointment was heavy on both their hearts. They could feel the weight of rejection pressing down, but they refused to give in. They moved to the next house. This one was larger, with a wide porch and a garden full of vegetables. Maria knocked again, repeating their plea, "Please, we will help with your home. We only need a place to stay." The door opened, and a young man looked at them. He shook his head without speaking and closed the door. The sisters felt their hope shrinking, but Maria whispered softly, "We cannot stop. One kind person is enough. One." The sun climbed higher and the sisters continued walking, moving from house to house. Each time they were met with suspicion, fear, or indifference. Some people ignored them completely, pretending they did not see the two strangers. Some gave them curious looks but said nothing. Maria and Alina's stomachs ached from hunger, their legs ached from walking, but they never stopped. By mid-morning, they found themselves sitting under a large oak tree at the edge of town. The shade provided a small relief from the hot sun, and they rested for a moment, holding their bundles tightly. Alina leaned against her sister, and Maria took a deep breath. "We have done our best. We cannot give up. Someone will see that we only want to help." They shared a small piece of bread they had saved from the morning, chewing slowly and savoring each bite. As they ate, they spoke quietly about their past. Maria told Elena stories of the home they had lost, of the wide fields and the warm fire in the evening. Elena spoke about her dreams of learning to cook and care for a family, of someday helping others as their mother had once helped their neighbors. Talking about the past and their dreams made the sisters feel stronger. They reminded each other of their promise. They would work, they would help, and they would find shelter. As the morning turned to afternoon, the sisters noticed a small bakery near the center of town. The scent of fresh bread filled the air, making their stomachs grumble even more. Maria held Elena's hand and walked forward. "We will try one more time," she said. "Maybe they will let us help." They approached the door and knocked lightly. A kind-looking woman with flour on her hands opened the door. She looked at the sisters and smiled slightly. "Yes?" she asked. Maria spoke with the same honesty and courage as before. "Please, ma'am, we are sisters. We have no home and no food. We will work in any way we can. We can cook, clean, and help you with anything you need. Please give us shelter even for a little while." The woman studied them carefully. She could see their tired faces, their worn clothes, and their hopeful eyes. She sighed softly. "I do not have much room, but I can give you a place in the back for a short time. You must work hard and follow the rules of the bakery." The sisters' eyes brightened and they both nodded eagerly. "Thank you, ma'am," Maria said. "We will work hard, we promise." Elena smiled, feeling a sense of relief she had not felt for days. For the first time since they left their home, they felt safe. They carried their bundles into the bakery, grateful for the small space that would be their shelter for now. The woman showed them where they could rest and where they would begin helping with chores. It was not a large home, and the work would be hard, but it was a start. That evening, the sisters helped prepare bread and clean the kitchen. They moved quietly, careful not to make mistakes. The woman watched them work and nodded in approval. Maria and Elena felt proud of their efforts, knowing that this was their first step toward building a new life. As night fell, the sisters lay on the small mats provided for them. The sounds of the town had quieted and the stars shone brightly above. Maria whispered to Elena, "We will work, we will cook, we will help. One day we will belong here." Elena nodded, feeling safe and hopeful for the first time in weeks. They had faced rejection and hardship, but they had not given up. In that moment, under the quiet sky, the sisters knew that their journey had only just begun. They had found a small shelter, but more importantly, they had found the courage to keep moving forward. Their promise to work hard and help others would guide them through the days ahead, and they knew that with determination and kindness, they could build a place for themselves in this new town. The morning sun spilled through the small windows of the bakery, casting warm light on the sisters as they prepared to start their day. Maria and Elena had spent the night in quiet rest, but sleep had not erased the ache in their legs or the hunger in their stomachs. Still, they rose with determination. This was their chance to prove themselves, to show that they could be helpful and trustworthy. The bakery was a modest place, with wooden counters, a large oven, and shelves filled with bread, pastries, and flour sacks. The woman who had given them shelter, Mrs. Harper, already moved around the kitchen, setting dough to rise and cleaning the counters. She glanced at the sisters and nodded. "Good morning. I hope you are ready to work. There is much to do." Maria and Elena nodded, their voices barely audible in the quiet morning. "Yes, ma'am, we are ready," Maria said. They quickly began sweeping the floor and organizing ingredients. It was hard work, but it gave them purpose. Each movement reminded them that they were not just asking for help, they were offering themselves in return. As the day passed, they learned the rhythm of the bakery. Maria kneaded dough, careful to follow the instructions, while Elena arranged trays and cleaned utensils. The smell of fresh bread filled the room, and though their stomachs still ached with hunger, their hearts felt lighter. Mrs. Harper occasionally gave them small nods of approval, but she remained cautious, her trust earned slowly. Outside the bakery, the town continued with its daily life. Farmers walked to the fields, Merchants prepared their shops and children played in the streets. The sisters sometimes peeked through the window, longing to explore and be part of the town, yet aware that their place was still uncertain. They could not yet call it home. They were visitors in a world that had not fully accepted them. By midday, the sisters had learned to work quietly and efficiently. Maria carried trays of bread to the small shop counter, while Elena helped customers with a polite smile. A few townspeople paused to notice the sisters, curious about the newcomers working diligently behind the counter. Some whispered to each other, casting cautious glances, while others simply went about their business. Maria and Elena did not mind the attention. They only focused on doing their work well. Despite their progress, not everyone in town was kind. A few neighbors eyed them suspiciously, whispering about their background. Some crossed the street to avoid walking near them. Maria noticed these reactions and felt a sting of sadness, but she did not let it show. She whispered to Elena, "We cannot worry about everyone. We only need one person to believe in us, and that will be enough." Elena nodded, trusting her sister's wisdom. In the late afternoon, Mrs. Harper gave the sisters a small task outside the bakery. The garden behind the shop needed care, and the sisters were asked to water the plants and pull out weeds. Maria took the watering can and began carefully pouring water over the vegetables, while Elena worked on clearing the soil. The work was tiring, but the sisters felt a sense of accomplishment. Each plant they nurtured reminded them that growth came slowly, with patience and care. As they worked, a young girl from the neighborhood approached. She had noticed the sisters from afar and was curious about them. "Hello," the girl said shyly. "Are you the new helpers at the bakery?" Elena smiled warmly. "Yes, we are. My name is Elena and this is my sister Maria. We help here so we can stay in town." The girl tilted her head. "Do you live here now?" Maria shook her head. "Not yet. We have only just started. We hope that one day we will belong, but for now we work hard to help Mrs. Harper." The girl nodded thoughtfully and then ran off to tell her mother. This small interaction gave the sisters hope. Even the smallest kindness, the smallest recognition, mattered. They had faced so much rejection, and yet here was someone willing to speak to them and see them as people, not strangers to fear. That evening, as the bakery closed and the town quieted, the sisters returned to the small room Mrs. Harper had given them. They sat on their mats and shared a simple meal of bread and milk. They were still hungry, but the act of eating together after a day of hard work felt comforting. Maria took Elena's hand and said, "See, one kind gesture is enough to start a new day. We will find more. We just have to keep trying." Days passed, and the sisters continued their work with growing confidence. They learned to bake bread from start to finish, prepare pastries, and clean the shop thoroughly. Customers began to recognize their faces, some offering polite smiles or nods of appreciation. The sisters felt proud, knowing that their efforts were slowly changing how people saw them. One afternoon, while sweeping the floor, Maria noticed an elderly man watching them from the doorway. His eyes were kind but cautious. "You work very hard," he said slowly. "Not many people would do as much for so little in return." Maria smiled politely. "We only wish to help." "We are grateful for the shelter, sir, and we want to earn it." The man nodded thoughtfully. "I will remember your effort. Hard work is always noticed, even if slowly." That evening, Elena whispered to Maria, "Do you think people are starting to see that we are sincere?" Maria nodded. "Yes," slowly. "Patience is important. One day people will see us not as strangers but as part of this town. We only need to keep showing them through our actions." Not all days were easy. Sometimes customers were rude. Sometimes neighbors avoided them entirely. And sometimes their bodies ached so badly they could barely move. But Maria and Elena never complained. They encouraged each other, shared small jokes, and reminded one another of their goal: to earn shelter, respect, and a place in this new world. One morning, a small accident happened in the bakery. A tray of pastries fell to the floor, breaking several of them. Maria felt panic rise in her chest, fearing the loss of Mrs. Harper's trust. She quickly began cleaning up the mess, while Alina helped salvage what she could. Mrs. Harper arrived moments later, frowning at the broken pastries. But instead of anger, she sighed and said, "Mistakes happen. What matters is that you clean up and learn from them. Work with care next time." The sisters nodded, grateful for her understanding. They realized that patience and diligence were not only about doing the work, but also about learning to handle challenges calmly. That moment strengthened their resolve. Weeks passed, and the sisters' reputation grew slowly but surely. Their dedication became visible, and some neighbors began to offer small gestures of kindness. A bowl of soup left on the doorstep, a smile in passing, a word of encouragement. Maria and Alina accepted these gifts with humility and gratitude, never forgetting the struggle that had brought them here. By the end of the month, the sisters had become an indispensable part of the bakery. Mrs. Harper no longer needed to watch them constantly. Customers greeted them by name, and the townspeople who had once been wary now nodded politely in recognition. The sisters had not only survived, they had begun to thrive. Yet, even with their progress, Maria and Alina never forgot the hardships they had faced. Each day reminded them of the importance of perseverance, humility, and kindness. They knew that trust could not be demanded, it had to be earned through actions and character. And they were determined to continue earning it, step by step, day by day. One quiet evening after closing the bakery and putting away the last trays of bread, Maria and Alina stepped outside. The sun was setting, casting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The town was calm, the streets almost empty. The sisters held hands and looked around, feeling a sense of peace they had not felt for months. Maria whispered, "Look at how far we have come. From the day we arrived hungry and tired to now. We are still not home, but we are getting there." Alina smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "Yes, we will keep working, keep helping, and keep showing them who we are. One day this town will be our home too." As the sisters walked back to the small room Mrs. Harper had given them, they felt hope stronger than ever. They knew the journey ahead was still long, but for the first time, they felt that they were not alone in facing it. Through hard work, patience, and kindness, they had begun to carve out a place in the world, a place where they could belong, where their efforts mattered, and where their dreams of a home might finally come true. The days passed, and the sisters' routine in the bakery became smoother. Maria and Alina had grown accustomed to the early mornings, the long hours, and the constant work. What once had felt exhausting and uncertain now gave them a sense of purpose. They woke each day before the sun, prepared the dough, swept the floors, and cleaned the counters. Every task, no matter how small, was done with care and attention, for they understood that their work was not just about earning shelter, it was about earning trust and respect. One morning, as the sisters carried baskets of flour from the storage room, Mrs. Harper called them aside. "I have a special task for you today," she said, her tone thoughtful. "There is a woman down the street who is ill. She cannot prepare her food or clean her home. If you can help her, I would appreciate it." Maria and Alina exchanged a glance, their eyes lighting up. "Of course, ma'am," Maria replied. "We will do our best." The sisters gathered a small bag of bread, a few fresh pastries, and a jug of water. They walked down the street to the woman's home, the wooden boards of the sidewalks creaking beneath their feet. At the door, Maria knocked gently. A weak voice called from inside. "Who is there?" Maria spoke softly but clearly. "We are sisters from the bakery. Mrs. Harper sent us to help. We brought food and can clean your home if you need us to." The door opened slowly, and a frail woman appeared. Her face was pale, her hair disheveled, and her eyes tired. She looked at the sisters with surprise. You came for me?" she asked, her voice shaking. Alina stepped forward with a warm smile. "Yes, ma'am. We heard you were not well. We will do whatever we can to help you." The woman hesitated for a moment, then nodded and stepped aside to let them enter. The sisters carefully set the food on the table and began cleaning the home. Maria dusted the shelves and counters while Elena swept the floor and washed the dishes. The work was delicate and slow, for they wanted everything to be perfect. As they worked, the woman watched them quietly. "You are very kind," she said softly. "I have not had visitors like you in a long time. People often avoid me because of my illness, but you came to help." Maria smiled gently. "It is our pleasure, ma'am. We are happy to help." By the time the sun began to set, the home was clean, the food was ready, and the woman's spirits had lifted. She offered the sisters a small cup of tea, which they accepted gratefully. Sitting together, the warmth of the drink and the gratitude in the woman's eyes filled their hearts with a sense of accomplishment and joy. When they returned to the bakery, Maria whispered to Elena, "See, helping others is not just work. It makes people happy, and it makes us feel proud too." Elena nodded, smiling. "I like seeing people smile because of what we do," she said softly. Word of the sisters' kindness began to spread. A few neighbors, who had once been wary, started noticing them in the streets and giving polite nods or small greetings. One elderly man even offered to teach Maria a few skills for caring for plants and herbs. Another neighbor asked Elena to help mend a small torn dress. Every small gesture made the sisters feel more included in the life of the town. One afternoon, a little boy ran up to the sisters as they were carrying baskets of bread. "Are you the sisters from the bakery?" he asked eagerly. "Yes, we are," Elena replied, smiling. "My name is Elena, and this is my sister Maria." The boy held out a small bouquet of wildflowers he had picked from a nearby field. "These are for you. Thank you for helping my grandmother," he said. Maria took the flowers carefully, her eyes misting slightly. "Thank you, little one. That is very kind of you." Elena whispered to Maria as they continued their work. "It feels nice to be appreciated, doesn't it?" Maria nodded. "Yes. It shows that our efforts are being noticed. People are starting to see who we really are." The sisters worked tirelessly, not for praise, but because they wanted to help and be useful. They began taking small walks around the town in the evenings, always polite and careful to observe the rules of the community. Slowly, they began to learn the rhythm of the town, which shops opened early, where the children played, and which neighbors were friendly. With every interaction, they built connections, even if small ones, with the people around them. One day, a merchant approached the bakery. He had seen the sisters helping the elderly woman and was impressed by their dedication. "I see you work hard every day," he said kindly. "It is not easy to earn people's trust, especially when you are new to town. You are doing well." Maria and Elena thanked him politely. "We only want to help," Maria said. "That is enough for us." The merchant smiled. "You have more than enough. People notice actions, not just words. Keep doing what you are doing, and soon the town will see your value." That evening, the sisters returned to their small room, feeling a quiet sense of pride. They had faced rejection and doubt, yet they were slowly making a place for themselves. The days were still long and tiring, but every smile, every word of appreciation made the effort worthwhile. As weeks turned into a month, the sisters' presence in the town became more familiar. People began to trust them, though some still observed them cautiously. The sisters never allowed this to discourage them. Instead, they focused on their work and on helping those who needed it most. They assisted the sick, cared for animals, swept streets, and even helped children with their small chores. Every act of kindness, no matter how simple, strengthened the bonds between them and the community. One afternoon, a group of women came to Mrs. Harper's bakery to pick up bread. They noticed Maria and Elena organizing the shelves and offered kind words. "You girls are very hardworking," one woman said. "It is rare to see such dedication." Elena blushed at the compliment. "Thank you, ma'am. We are happy to help." The women smiled and continued their shopping, leaving the sisters with a sense of accomplishment. Maria whispered to Alina, "See, each small act of kindness, each effort we make is noticed. People are slowly understanding who we are." Despite their growing acceptance, the sisters remained humble. They knew that trust was fragile and could be lost if they became careless or proud. Every day, they reminded each other to be patient, kind, and diligent. They continued to work at the bakery, help the townspeople, and learn new skills, knowing that each day brought them closer to being fully accepted. One evening, after closing the bakery, the sisters walked to the nearby field to rest. The sun was setting and the sky was painted in soft shades of orange and pink. Maria looked at the horizon and whispered, "We have come so far. From the day we arrived, no one would help us, and now people are starting to see us differently. It gives me hope." Alina nodded. "Yes, we will keep working, helping, and showing them that we only want to be part of this town. One day, we will belong here completely." The sisters sat quietly, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant laughter of children. They reflected on their journey, the long walks, the hunger, the rejection, and the moments of doubt. They realized that each challenge had made them stronger, more patient, and more determined. The next morning, they awoke early as usual, ready to continue their work. They knew that building trust and acceptance was a slow process, but they were willing to persevere. Maria and Alina moved through the bakery and the town with purpose, knowing that every kind gesture, every smile they shared, brought them closer to the life they dreamed of, a life where they could call a place home and be valued members of the community. By the end of part 3, the sisters had begun to see the fruits of their perseverance. People were no longer ignoring them, but greeting them politely. Neighbors who had once been wary now smiled. Children ran up to them with gifts of flowers or drawings, and the elderly were grateful for their help. The sisters understood that acceptance could not be rushed. It had to be earned day by day through patience, hard work, and kindness. For Maria and Alina, each small victory was a reminder of their strength, their bond, and the promise they had made to each other: to work, to help, and to find a place where they could belong. The journey was far from over, but the sisters had taken significant steps forward, and they knew that with courage and persistence, they would continue to overcome the challenges ahead. The seasons began to change, and with them came a sense of rhythm in the sisters' lives. Maria and Alina had been in the town for several months now, and the people were starting to notice the consistency of their hard work. Every morning, they woke before the sun, swept the bakery floors, kneaded dough, and helped Mrs. Harper prepare the fresh bread and pastries. Though the work was tiring, it had become familiar, almost comforting, and each day they grew more confident in their abilities. One morning, Mrs. Harper spoke to them with a serious expression. "Girls, I think it is time for you to take on more responsibility. The bakery is doing well, and I want you to help me manage some of the daily tasks. I trust you both to make decisions while I am away." Maria and Alina exchanged glances, a mixture of pride and nervousness in their eyes. "We will do our best, ma'am," Maria said firmly. "You can count on us." Over the next few weeks, the sisters began to take on more tasks independently. They opened the bakery early, prepared dough, served customers, and even handled small accounts of money. The townspeople were surprised by their reliability and began to show more respect. Customers who had once glanced at them with suspicion now greeted them by name, and children waved eagerly as they passed by. One afternoon, an important event in the town required the sisters' help. The mayor's wife had fallen ill and needed assistance in preparing food for a gathering. Mrs. Harper encouraged Maria and Alina to volunteer. The sisters carefully carried baskets of bread and ingredients to the mayor's home, working diligently to help prepare the large meal. As they worked, the sisters noticed the expressions of surprise and gratitude on the faces of the townspeople. Many whispered to each other, impressed by the young women's dedication and skill. Maria felt a quiet sense of pride. They were no longer outsiders. Their actions were beginning to speak louder than the prejudice that had greeted them months earlier. After the event, the mayor's wife approached the sisters. "You girls are extraordinary," she said warmly. "Not only are you hardworking, but you are kind and respectful. I am grateful for your help." Alina blushed. "Thank you, ma'am. We are happy to help. We only wish to be useful." The sisters returned to the bakery that evening, carrying a quiet happiness with them. For the first time, they felt that their place in the town was not just temporary. They had begun to belong. Despite these successes, not every moment was easy. Some townspeople still eyed them cautiously, unsure whether they could fully trust newcomers. Occasionally, someone would make a comment about their background, testing their patience. Maria and Alina never responded with anger. Instead, they continued to demonstrate kindness and diligence. Their actions slowly dismantled the lingering prejudice, showing that they were not a threat but a valuable part of the community. One rainy afternoon, the sisters were asked to help a family whose roof had been damaged by a storm. Maria and Alina worked carefully to clear the debris and carry buckets of water to help with repairs. The family watched them, initially skeptical but eventually filled with gratitude as they realized how much effort the sisters had put in. "Your work is remarkable," the father of the house said. "You do not have to help us, yet you chose to. Thank you." Maria smiled humbly. "It is our duty to help where we can, sir. We are grateful to be part of this town, even in a small way." These small acts of service did more than earn respect. They began to create connections. People who had once avoided the sisters now spoke to them, offered small gifts, or asked for their advice. Maria and Alina continued to accept these gestures with humility, never allowing themselves to grow proud. One evening, as the sisters prepared the bakery for the next day, Mrs. Harper spoke to them with warmth. "Girls, I am proud of how far you have come. You have shown patience, kindness, and dedication. You are no longer just workers here. You are part of this town. People trust you and they respect you. You have earned it." Maria and Alina felt their hearts swell with happiness. They had dreamed of a place where they could belong, and now that dream was beginning to take shape. But they knew that earning permanent trust required continued effort. They had to maintain their humility, continue their hard work, and remain kind to everyone, no matter how small the gesture. The following days were filled with opportunities to demonstrate their commitment. Maria began teaching a small group of children how to bake simple bread, patiently showing them each step. Alina helped elderly neighbors with household chores, always greeting them with a smile. Their actions inspired others, and soon more townspeople began contributing to the community in small ways. One morning, a local merchant approached the sisters. "I see the way you help others," he said. "Your kindness is changing the town. People are beginning to trust each other more because of your example." Maria and Alina were humbled by his words. "We only wish to help, sir," Maria replied. "If our work makes life better for others, that is enough for us." As winter approached, the sisters continued their routines. They helped Mrs. Harper prepare the bakery for the cold months, ensuring that supplies were stored and the ovens were ready for constant use. Despite the chill in the air, their spirits remained warm. The town had begun to see them not as strangers, but as friends and helpers, and each interaction strengthened their sense of belonging. One day, while walking through the town square, Maria and Alina noticed a small group of children playing in the snow. One child tripped and fell, and the sisters quickly ran to help. They lifted the child gently and brushed off the snow. The parents, watching nearby, smiled and nodded. These small acts of care reinforced the sisters' reputation as trustworthy, kind, and dependable members of the community. Even the mayor began to recognize their contributions. He called for them one afternoon. "Maria, Alina," he said, Your dedication has not gone unnoticed. You have earned the respect of this town, and I want you to know that you are welcome here. Your efforts have made a difference." The sisters bowed politely, their hearts filled with gratitude. "Thank you, sir," Maria said. "We are honored to serve and to be part of this town." Alina added softly, "We only wish to help, to contribute, and to belong. That is our greatest hope." The mayor smiled. "You have already achieved that. Keep your hearts kind and your work honest, and the town will continue to value you." As the sisters left the mayor's office, they held hands and walked quietly. Maria whispered, "We have come so far, people see us now, they trust us, they respect us." Alina nodded. "Yes, but we must continue to work hard. Trust and respect are precious, and we must never take them for granted." In the following weeks, the sisters' influence in the town grew. Neighbors came to them for advice on baking, cleaning, and caring for their homes. Children looked up to them, inspired by their dedication and kindness. Even the townspeople who had once been suspicious began to seek their guidance and help. Maria and Alina had become an integral part of the community, not through words or demands, but through patience, hard work, and compassion. One quiet evening, after the bakery had closed and the town had grown still, the sisters walked to the hill overlooking the town. The lights of the homes glimmered like stars below, and the sky above was clear and calm. Maria took a deep breath and said softly, "We have earned trust, we have earned respect, and slowly we are earning a place where we belong." Alina leaned against her sister, her eyes reflecting the lights below. "It feels like we are part of something now. Our work, our patience, and our kindness, they are making a difference." Maria nodded. "Yes, but we cannot stop here. We must continue to help, continue to work, and continue to show who we are. That is the way to truly belong." And so, the sisters continued their journey. Each day brought new challenges, new tasks, and new opportunities to demonstrate their dedication. They worked tirelessly, not for reward or recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. Through their persistence, the townspeople's hearts had softened, and the sisters had begun to build a lasting place for themselves. By the end of Part 4, Maria and Alina had not only earned temporary shelter and kindness, but had begun to gain genuine trust and respect from the people around them. They were seen as helpers, friends, and part of the town's growing community. They knew that the journey was still ongoing, but their perseverance, humility, and compassion had carried them far. They had proven that even the smallest acts of work and kindness could change hearts and build connections. The sisters returned to their small room that night, tired but happy. They had worked hard, helped many people, and earned the trust of the town. Holding hands, they whispered to each other, "We are getting closer. One day this town will be our home. And when that day comes, we will be ready to belong fully with our hearts and our hands." The winter had passed, leaving behind soft green grass and the gentle warmth of spring. Maria and Alina had grown stronger, not just in body but in heart. Over the months, they had become part of the town's daily rhythm. People no longer glanced at them with suspicion or whispered behind their backs. They were greeted with smiles, waved at by children, and trusted by neighbors for help and advice. Their place in the town was no longer temporary, it was becoming permanent. One morning, Mrs. Harper entered the bakery with a bright smile. "Girls," she said warmly, "today you will take charge of the bakery while I attend the town meeting. I trust you to manage everything." Maria and Alina exchanged excited glances. They had worked hard for this moment, and now their abilities and dedication were fully recognized. They organized the counter, prepared the dough, and arranged pastries for the morning crowd. Each task was completed with care, reflecting months of experience and discipline. Customers arrived steadily, many nodding or smiling in recognition. Some even offered small compliments on how well the bakery had been maintained. As the day progressed, the sisters noticed people watching their work with interest. A few townspeople whispered to each other, clearly impressed by how the sisters handled responsibilities so skillfully. Even those who had once been wary were beginning to speak to them freely, asking questions and offering help. Maria and Alina realized that they had earned something far beyond shelter. They had earned respect, trust, and admiration. In the afternoon, the mayor himself visited the bakery. He greeted the sisters warmly. "Maria, Alina," he said, "I have heard from many people about your dedication and service to this town. You have shown patience, humility, and kindness. I want to officially welcome you both as part of our community." The sisters were taken aback. Maria's eyes filled with tears of happiness. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We are grateful. All we wanted was to work hard and help. To hear that we are part of this town, it is more than we ever hoped for." Alina smiled softly. "We will continue to work, continue to help, and continue to be part of this community. That is our promise." The mayor nodded. "Your promise is enough. Your actions have already shown your dedication. The town is proud to have you." After the mayor left, the sisters returned to their work, but their hearts were lighter and fuller than ever. They had come a long way from the dusty road that had brought them to this town. They had faced hunger, rejection, and prejudice. They had endured long days of hard work and countless small challenges. Yet, every effort had led them to this moment of belonging and recognition. Over the following weeks, the sisters' role in the town continued to grow. They helped neighbors with daily chores, assisted children with schoolwork, and tended to the elderly who needed care. People came to trust their judgment and rely on their help, and in return, the sisters felt a profound sense of satisfaction. They were no longer strangers. They were valued members of the community. One day, a festival was planned in the town to celebrate the arrival of spring. Maria and Alina were asked to prepare special bread and pastries for the event. They worked tirelessly, baking loaves and shaping sweet treats, ensuring that each item was perfect. As the townspeople arrived for the festival, they were met with the smell of fresh bread and the sight of carefully arranged tables. Many paused to compliment the sisters on their work, expressing gratitude for their efforts. The festival was lively and joyful. Children ran around laughing, neighbors shared stories, and music filled the air. Maria and Alina moved among the people, serving food, offering smiles, and helping wherever needed. For the first time, they felt fully included, not just in the work of the town, but in its celebrations, its joys, and its community life. During a quiet moment, the mayor approached them again. "Maria, Alina," he said, "the town owes you a great debt. Your dedication, kindness, and hard work have strengthened our community. You have shown that true belonging comes from actions, not words. Today, we celebrate not just spring, but your presence here." Maria felt tears prick her eyes. She glanced at Alina, who smiled with the same emotion. "We are honored," Maria said softly. "All we ever wanted was to help, to be useful, and to belong. Now we feel that we truly do." Alina added, "We promise to continue helping, to continue working, and to continue showing kindness. We will never forget the journey that brought us here." The mayor nodded approvingly. "That is the spirit of true belonging. Actions speak louder than words, and you have proven yourselves." That evening, after the festival ended, the sisters returned to their small room above the bakery. They were tired but filled with a deep sense of peace. They sat together by the window looking out at the quiet town. The lights of the homes glimmered, and the distant laughter of children still echoed faintly in the streets. Maria whispered, "We have come so far. From the dusty road, from hunger and rejection, to being welcomed, trusted, and respected. I never imagined this would happen." Alina nodded, her eyes reflecting the warm glow of the evening lights. "Yes. It was not easy, but every step, every effort, every kind act brought us here. We belong now, not just in the bakery, but in this town, in these hearts." The sisters held hands, feeling the strength of their bond and the joy of having found a place where they truly belonged. For months they had persevered, guided by their promise to work, to help, and to show kindness. That promise had carried them through hardship and doubt, and now it had brought them home. In the following months the sisters continued to thrive. They helped Mrs. Harper expand the bakery, teaching young apprentices the art of baking. They organized small community projects, such as cleaning the streets and assisting the elderly. Their reputation grew, and the town looked to them as role models of patience, diligence, and kindness. One morning, as the sisters prepared the bakery for another day, a group of children ran in, holding handmade cards and flowers. "For Maria and Alina," they shouted joyfully. The sisters knelt to accept the gifts, their hearts full. "Thank you, children," Maria said, smiling. "We are proud to be your friends." Alina added, "Your kindness makes us happy. Keep helping others and you will always be part of this community too." The children beamed, and for the sisters, the moment was a reminder that their efforts had ripple effects. Their work had inspired others, and in turn, the town had grown stronger, warmer, and more connected because of them. By now, Maria and Alina were no longer seen as outsiders or strangers. They were part of the town's life, celebrated for their perseverance, kindness, and dedication. They had found a home not through possessions or walls, but through the hearts of the people around them. One quiet evening, as they closed the bakery, Mrs. Harper approached them with a small smile. "Girls," she said, "you have done more than I could have ever imagined. You came here with nothing but courage and a promise, and look at what you have built. You are part of this town, and you always will be." Maria and Alina felt a warmth in their hearts. "Thank you, ma'am," Maria said softly. "We could not have done it without your guidance and trust." Alina nodded. "We will continue to help, to work, and to be part of this community. We will never forget where we started, and we will never stop showing kindness." The sisters walked to the small hill overlooking the town, just as they had many times before. But this time, the view felt different. The town lights sparkled like stars below, the streets were filled with laughter and life, and the townspeople waved to them as they passed. Maria and Alina felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had endured hardship, faced rejection, and worked tirelessly. Now they were home. Maria whispered, "We did it. We belong here. The town is our home now, not just in buildings but in hearts." Alina smiled. "Yes, and every act of kindness, every effort, every promise we kept has brought us here. We have found more than shelter. We have found family, community, and love." As night fell and the stars appeared above, the sisters felt a quiet peace. Their journey had begun with uncertainty and fear, but through hard work, patience, and kindness, they had achieved what they had dreamed of, a place where they were valued, trusted, and truly at home. The next morning, the sisters rose early, ready to continue their work. They prepared the bakery, served customers, and helped wherever needed, but now with a sense of joy and belonging that made each task meaningful. The townspeople greeted them warmly, children ran to them with smiles, and neighbors offered small gestures of kindness. Maria and Alina knew that their journey had come full circle. By the end of part 5, Maria and Alina had fully earned their place in the town. They were no longer travelers seeking shelter. They were members of the community, celebrated for their perseverance, dedication, and kindness. Their journey showed that patience, hard work, and compassion could overcome hardship and prejudice, and that true belonging comes from actions, not just words. The sisters had found their home, and it was more than a roof over their heads. It was the hearts of the people they had touched, the smiles they had inspired, and the lives they had helped improve. Their promise had carried them through, and in the end, it had created a life of meaning, respect, and love.